Hello, everybody. This is Gabby here. Can you confirm that you can hear me, please?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Jesse. Um, Sasha, did you get an invitation to be a speaker here in the app? I sent you one. That way you can, well, be part of the conversation, of course. I also sent you one for a co-host. So if you can accept either of those, that'd be great. Maybe we can give it just 2 more minutes for somebody, for whoever wants to join, and then we'll get started. Yeah? Right.
The music was great though. Do you want to play it again?
Yeah. I don't know why it's not playing. Let's see. All right. Maybe we can get started. Um, Sasha, are you able to speak? Mm, okay, 1 second. All right. Okay, maybe we'll just get started. I think Sasha is having a little bit of um, a technical problem to accept the invitation here, but um, right, I'm speaking to her, so let's get started and we'll try to figure this out as we go. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And this is our second episode on a series of AI related Twitter spaces. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome our guests to this panel, Sasha Wallinger, Daniela Merlano, and our co-founder and CEO, Jesse Eisses. Um, we will be discussing AI and Web3. Where do I start? We thought this would be a very interesting discussion, given the fact that there's so many people building or thinking about building an AI tool in Web3. And well, we're all here to share our journeys, right? So with no further ado, how about we move on to presentations? Daniela, would you like to start? Um, just your name, your project, a bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you for having me here for inviting me today. So I'm Daniela Merlano. I'm the founder of Thrive, which is meant to be an app for emotional training that is merging generative AI with emotions and positive psychology. I've been around emerging technology since April last year, and Thrive is very recent. It's since December about. So we're going, yeah, that's a bit of me. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniela. Jesse, how about you? Go next.
Of course. Hello, everyone. I'm Jesse. I'm the co-founder of Effect Network. We are a web3 project that's doing a lot of AI-related data annotations. We started around 6 years ago. So we've been around a while, and we've built a product where people can do data annotations to develop AI algorithms. I myself, I have a background in AI, and I've quite a technical background as well. So I've done computer science and artificial intelligence. I'm really interested in building artificial intelligence algorithms, and the technology behind it is really intriguing to me. So I love to talk about it. Very excited to be here for the second Twitter Spaces from Effect Network. Yeah, that's a quick intro from my side.
Thank you, Jesse. And Sasha, how about you go next?
Hi, just in the nick of time. Thank you for welcoming me. So, Sasha Wallinger. I'm in the United States Bay Area in California, and have had Blockchain Style Lab as an organization for a number of years. Started in right around 2015, 2014, when I understood the impact that blockchain was going to have across the variety of spaces that we now call Web3, and especially in the luxury, premium, and fashion ecosystem. So excited to join this panel today and chat a little bit about those spaces.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we're so excited also to have you over. Well, thank you all for your presentations. Now, I want to move on a little bit to do a little bit of questions um, related to your journey in AI. So maybe we can do it a little bit in turns. First one, maybe, well, you can go first, Danny. Um, how and when did your interest in AI started? How do you see AI and blockchain coming together? And what made you decide to build something in this space?
Okay, so I started using generative AI since September last year. And actually it's a very nice story. So I've been a therapist for over 5 years, and as alongside of working in companies. And I had one of my patients, and I've already been knowing about the generative images because of a friend of mine that he's an architect and was using them for those purposes.
Yeah.
And my patient told me that he liked using those tools because he felt to create there felt very meditative, like he would just be there like art.
Yeah.
Um, and I remembered my journey with meditation and active imagination. So I walked him through active imagination and through creating his own piece, like his own first art piece focused on emotions and on what we were working together during the therapy sessions. So it was very nice because it worked for him so well, and he started bringing that into our Zoom calls and opening up a little bit more because of the emotional state that was already kind of predetermined by the image and the memory of the image. That I started learning myself how to do them and taking more clients into the experience because of proving the theory that I've always thought that we have more power within ourselves in our own well-being and healing journey. It's just we don't know it, and we've not been trained to understand our emotions that way in a proactive way.
Yeah.
So having those images could be a lot of help for them when I'm not there to still keep it up with their well-being and remember how that feels. Um, so that's what I started doing, and after I got over like 20 experiences with people that were and were not in therapy, just around active imagination and the image, um, there is where I got thought
Yeah.
of scaling. When I thought of scaling is where I thought about what else can technology do that can help me build something that will be more than the images, an emotional training hub that could help self-awareness as well, given the purpose of giving back people power on their own well-being. And there is where I started wanting to understand a little bit more about AI and NLP systems and how can they work and how can they learn to understand if that could be something useful for me. And that's part of an extra thing that I've been doing to build the tool, so we can give our users positive reinforcement around their own themselves, around their own information. So it's very unique. They are very unique. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into it and why I got into it. I'm not an expert on AI by any means. I'm just learning about it from a product perspective, and as I've been building with the incubator, listening to the data scientists, the machine learning engineers, and others ask questions around how the model should work and what should it do, is that I've been learning, but I'm not an expert by any means.
But that's great,
So
I
what was
think,
the second
because,
question?
sorry to interrupt you. I mean, I think it's great that you make that point because there's so many people wanting to build something, and maybe they don't get to it because they don't feel like they're experts yet. And you're like this great example of a journey where you're learning, but you're also creating something. And I really liked, I mean, I think we talked a lot about your project, and I had never asked you at what moment the idea came to start using AI for mental health. So it's really interesting that you got it from an experience with a client that you
Mm.
were working with. That's really good to know. It's great.
Yeah, that was very nice. Actually, that was very organic.
Yeah,
Um, Unfortunately, we do are in an area that because of generative AI itself, more people like me that we're not techie but we can learn can think of the good use of it out of the purpose first, um, and understand it from a product perspective to then decide what to do with it. And I feel that's very, very like
yeah,
eye-opening. Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you very much. How about, yeah,
Oh, you also asked about how AI and blockchain
come together? How
joined.
do you see them coming together?
What I feel it, and maybe Jesse can help me out to see if I'm saying something that is not right. But what I've seen mostly around how they merge is in data protection and in kind of creating like a veil between identity and the use of data anyways, without necessarily having people's identity and giving that ownership to them, and still be able to do and to train the models with it.
Right.
um
And this is something that would be really important in mental health, correct?
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. That's also why I'm looking to it. But Jesse, I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, or what would be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it makes total sense. Definitely, having transparency where data comes from and how models are built is very important. It can add a lot of value to many applications. I think it's amazing what you're doing with AI as well. I think mental health is one of the most important parts where as we're moving to this digital space where everyone is continuously online using social media. There's a lot of research coming out about how sort of damaging it can be for mental health to be on social media all the time as a teenager growing up.
Yeah.
So I think using blockchain and using the sort of the transparency, but and putting technology to work with metaverses, with virtual experiences, and blockchain can add a lot of value there as well when it comes to how the data sets are built and how they're being used and who's using them where. And mental health should be a really important topic as we're creating this new technology, this new world. And as metaverse and blockchain is very new, we should really pay attention on making sure people get more happy from it and feel better by it in the end of it. So, but I think it's a great, yeah, what you're saying makes total sense.
Yeah. Well, since we're already with you, Jesse, we already talked about this on the last episode, but maybe to refresh anybody who's new here, could you tell us a little bit about how your interest in AI started and what made you build something in this space?
Yeah, of course. So my history is quite a bit different, and how I got into AI. I actually started after high school. I was very interested in mathematics and in really technical subjects, which I was just really good at. But I was fascinated by math and more of the philosophical, like how real and deep that world goes. So I started studying mathematics for a year after high school, and it was really interesting to me, but it was way too abstract and sort of you couldn't really apply it to anything directly. It's very philosophical and you're continuously you're only working with these abstract thoughts. It's very philosophical
Yeah.
mathematics, and you have to like prove that 1 + 1 is 2, and you would spend like a month on making a proof to showcase that, right? It's really intriguing, but it's also for me it was too abstract. So I started looking for something more applied because I really wanted to build stuff. I'm a builder by nature, I would say. So I switched my studies to artificial intelligence, which back then, this was quite a while ago, was a way different industry than it is now. So our, back then, artificial intelligence was way more mathematical. Like we would like study stuff about how to predict an image classification, and it wouldn't be nowadays. Deep neural networks are the way to go. Back then, they didn't use that yet. It was very mathematical. You would build these descriptors that would sort of analyze the pictures and figure out what kind of colors are used and where's the shading, and you would build these quiet sort of mathematical models and figure out with those models how can we figure out if a picture is a cat or a dog or a hot dog or not a hot dog, or like just image classification
Yeah.
would be more of a mathematical exercise. Nowadays, it's more with deep neural networks, it's a completely different space, but that's how I got into it. And I've really seen the AI industry develop really radically. I'm very excited about how the entire space changed, and we're all using and applying AI to these cool use cases. Because when I started, that wasn't really the case. It was more of a mathematical and interesting topic.
Yeah.
And now it's a way more exciting, real world solving issues that really need to be solved type of industry.
Yeah. You got fashion, you got mental
And
health, you got everything.
yeah, exactly. And it's beautiful that we can make so much progress there.
Yeah.
And so the second part, so how
How did you decide to build
what was
something?
like this
Um,
when I decided to build
yeah.
something in the space was mainly because I was also very interested in blockchain, like more of the computer science side. So when Bitcoin came out, I was there very early working with the code and looking at how to run it. The freedom that it gave was very appealing to me.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to start something because I had a big background in AI. Data sets became very important in artificial intelligence because to train deep neural networks, you needed massive amounts of data, which was something new. So data annotations was a really big topic. It is now more than ever. And we wanted to make the data collection and data annotation market. And because you have platforms and click farms where people are basically working day in, day out for very low wages that no one knows about. And they're basically structuring the data sets for these algorithms to be trained
Yeah.
on. We wanted to make that more transparent. So initial vision was, all right, we need to make sure that whoever is training all these AIs that are very powerful, that are earning a lot of companies a lot of money, we need to at least make transparent how these got trained. And we need to create a marketplace where smaller companies can easily access data labelers
Yeah.
in a way that's sort of it's affordable, but it should also be um, like it should be clear what kind of working conditions people are in, and it should be transparent what's happening there. So that was the reason why we started Effect Network, to create a data annotation marketplace where people get paid like clear wages. You can see who annotated the data sets used for algorithms, and if you want a new algorithm, you have like a go-to place where you can tap into high quality data. That was the thought and the initial spark for creating Effect Network.
Yes, that is Spec Network. We'll move on a little bit at the end to introduce a little bit more about what we do also. Thank you, Jesse. Sacha, You go next.
Hi. Yes.
Hello.
Yes. The unexpected AI
Yes, the
individual
unexpected.
in the room. And I think we're talking about so many important topics with regards to, the mathematics and the data, and then certainly the mental health and wellness, which is part of the fiber of our day to day. And within
Totally.
regards to these systems that we're looking at, a fundamental to me, because I speak the language of fashion, but a fundamental additional system is the health and well-being, and also the confidence and the joy that comes from having clothing, fashion, apparel, the pop culture interplay around a look, be it in a virtual or a physical space.
Yeah.
And so my career started out very early on in this intersection between fashion and sustainability, and that's how both I embarked upon the application on AI, but also within blockchain, just from a sense of traceability within the business of fashion, understanding foresighting, trend forecasting, having a sense of personalization too. So custom collabs and doing, shorter drops and such. And so that integration of data with the psychology potentially of the consumer, both married to the brand sentiment as well as the designer's passion, is how I became aware of what we now call AI. I think that these are different, similar to how we talk about web3. These are different ethos and genesis stories that map up into what we're talking about now in AI. But also, I'll say I had a resurgence during the pandemic with these types of technologies, because there was such a need. And actually, probably, a little outdated now, but with Clubhouse being such an intimate moment for people to connect and relate via voice, really seeing the impact that intimacy of the voice could have. And I think people began to be more cognizant of the power of voice recognition and what have you. There were a lot of things. That's a whole different discussion, right? But because of that, I think more retailers, fashion brands, luxury premium outposts became capable of imagining what it would look like to travel into this AI space. So that was a real catalyst in a lot of the work that I've done.
That's amazing. So, how do you see AI and blockchain coming together in this?
I think again, this marriage between the traceability and the data, and then also this searchability. So blockchain really, for my purposes, like if you're looking to
Right,
imagine a voice.
from the fashion luxury perspective.
Right. It begins to become a tool of easily accessible data points that can be matched for, e-com searchability on a website. To obviously, fashion is such a visual topic. There's this ability to use and empower AI for enhanced searchability. But then there's also this opportunity to come into just this visual merchandising and this playfulness of how you're, a lot of people, I'm sure everybody in this discussion has seen the different Google, Microsoft, now Snap is kind of endeavoring into AI. There's a lot of creativity and playfulness that occurs there. But then at the back end of such things, and I'm not the best technologist to I have great colleagues that can explain this much better than I, but there's a need for a tool like AI to help organize the information and the data and material at the back end to breed something gorgeously visually stimulating from what the consumer can see, and also what the creator can imagine too. So there's a lot of this dance of behind the scenes AI information that now the plebeian, anybody can have a gateway into. And I think that breeds a little bit more of a cycle of understanding, respect, and then certainly curiosity in this space between the blockchain and AI intersection.
100%. So talk to us about AI in fashion and luxury. Like, where do you primarily see a use for AI tools in the sector?
Yeah, I haven't done I haven't seen like the capstone project,
Okay.
right? I haven't seen like that there's this one example, because I still think it's a work in progress.
Right.
And I think that there is still a lot of reservation in fashion, rightfully so, around AI and this, what can it be utilized for? I think that there's a lot to be said for the supply chain management and having this understanding of like inventory levels and understanding kind of what's selling. So a marketing standpoint
Right.
around this business of fashion. What I'd like to understand more and be really enthusiastic around experimentation with the digital fashion creators that I have the pleasure of working with is how they can imagine. I was just looking at I think it was the Dior show that was just at Paris Fashion Week, and you can see this just infrastructure of beauty and kind of just things that are coming together in such an entertaining
Yeah.
way to expose an ethos that the designer was looking to convey. And so then how do you liken that to connecting the dots between the designer and the consumer or the fan? How can you begin to have that, again, that intimacy measure that potentially AI can garner to convey a certain series of curated looks that then that somebody could play in with DALL-E, or that to be able to like begin to build something aspirational for themselves, evocative of what a designer is looking to convey, either in the physical fashion space or in a tool like Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft, Sandbox, to say like, oh, I'm going to utilize a designer's toolbox to play and create something evocative in my own Glow toolbox too. So yeah, I think the possibilities, short answer, are
They
endless.
are, way
Yeah.
too many. But that's so
I just wanted
exciting.
to add that I think those were great examples. I just got back from NFT Paris a few hours ago, actually. I know very little about fashion, so it's definitely not my industry. But being there, it was a massive conference. I mainly went for some meetings and side events, but yeah, what you can see is that fashion is was really an important topic there. Obviously, being in Paris
Yeah.
and being about NFTs, it wasn't a lot about AI, but yeah, what Sasha is saying, I think, are really great examples. And the fashion industry is so big, and there are so many creative people, and so much interest, and so many really great people involved that they're creating these beautiful metaverse experiences that also hook into AI a lot. So I was pretty blown away last weekend with what I experienced in Paris when it comes to fashion, meeting the metaverse, meeting AI. There are so many people working on it. It's a really
Yeah.
incredible industry, and I think we're going to see a lot of cool things coming up.
Yeah, there's so many things going on. I think I see all the time all these crazy creative um things the fashion industry is coming up with, and I'm really, really excited to see what's next in AI in fashion, because I do love fashion and I just think it's a really, really exciting and, like you say, a very playful area to explore.
There's something that I'd love to add to that point, and is that I am not very into fashion, but I do enjoy a lot the conversations around identity and how fashion actually is a lot about, like, it manages a lot of identity. And what I've seen with AI and with more people being able to express themselves and express their ways of fashion with the generative AI images, it's been great because I've seen people kind of creating their own representation
Right.
of
Yeah.
themselves with fashion pieces, or exploring other ways of understanding identity through virtual fashion, more than what you can find in wherever else or buy, but just out of the sense of diversity, inclusion, and creativity in identity. And I think that's very, very interesting.
That's amazing. I hadn't thought of it that way. I mean, I know fashion is a little bit of a way to represent yourself, but how it's also really connected to the space you're in, Daniela. That's a great thought. Um, well, actually, how about Daniela, you tell us, how do you think AI can help in the mental health space when it's such a personal and human area?
Actually, there's I recently wrote an article around that on the use cases of mental health in the in the industry, and it's been around for many years. Where it has had the most impact is inefficiencies in the system. So there's a lot of AI powered providers, if that makes
Okay,
sense, or
yeah, yeah,
companies like Moodfit, for example, that they use artificial intelligence to analyze patients' data, symptoms, moods, behaviors, so they can then bring insights and recommendations to the patients in a better way, also security wise. So, for example, here in the UK, there's a bunch of things going around NHS and inefficiencies on keeping record for
right,
mental health
yeah,
patients. So AI can help a lot with making that way more efficient, um, with those privacy and security of the mental health records of the professionals that work with them. There's also support. So actually with ChatGPT, um, one of the use cases that went faster out was chat like therapy chatbots. So
oh, nice,
so they yes. Yes, I think like because like the argument behind it is that the systems are so inefficient nowadays or expensive that sometimes to just have that moment of relief and having some kind of support right away, it's very useful. And I do have a bunch of patients that they do write to me in WhatsApp, and I answer them through WhatsApp myself. Um, so there's like back and forth thoughts on the benefits, but not losing the human touch on what when it comes to therapy.
yeah,
But it's very good for cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, because it's a lot about how we think to then do. So the chatbot can remind you of what you've already talked about before, so you can kind of gain perspective on it. So that's very interesting.
yeah, it is,
And the other one I found is mood tracking and emotions tracking. So our our applications like Happify, for example, or there's one that it's called I have it here. Wait,
yeah,
I'll look to my notebook. But they are meant to help us. Mood meter. It's the other one that is backed by Yale University
yeah,
research. And you tap in there, what are you feeling in different emotions and colors, and the app pops you like notifications or so when it's been a while that you're not feeling green, for example.
oh,
So those
okay,
things are there.
that's really
Also
interesting,
now there's a lot moving in virtual reality therapy and like VR, like using VR and AR for
right,
therapy, for phobias or for trauma. So they promote that you activate more
yeah,
emotions around the environments that they place for you, um, to heal.
yeah,
So that's another very interesting one.
yeah, like a lifelike
There's a lot.
imagination. Yeah, there's so much going on and so much to talk about on this area. I want to ask you, now that you're building an AI tool in Web3, what have been some of your biggest challenges, and how have you overcome them so far?
I think that one of my biggest challenges so far has been, I must say that and fortunately I just closed it, but finding someone
Yeah,
that has the mixture of knowing and enjoying AI as a technology, but understanding the importance of the purpose of the platform that I want to build for mental
yeah,
health. Um, and also aligning with the ethical matters of AI and of not just popping features and popping stuff for people without caring about the type of data that we're gathering for it and how to handle
Yeah,
it. So I think that has been quite challenging. I'd say mostly as yeah, like I think my best friend has been patience, because I feel that
totally.
AI has so much more impact than I can even understand right now, that I rather wait and be 5 times more careful than just rushing because it's a thing right now, or rushing because of finding a product market fit now or something like that. Um, because ethics in AI and how this is done now, that is in everyone's mouth, will pave the path for positive impact. So patience has been my best friend on
Yeah.
it.
Yes, if you're going to be build something, do it right, and especially if you're in the mental health space, right?
In any space, like the thing is, I'm still understanding how far data management has to be taken care
Yeah,
of. So definitely in anything, I think that's like doing that ethically has a bunch of double clicks. Um, yeah, I think that's one of the challenges. And the second one would be me thinking and being aware of the impact of having and creating AI systems for the environment.
yeah,
So it's like I wanna find the ways of still helping people with the technology in the best, most efficient way, because I care about the environment as well. I've not solved it yet. It's just a challenge I know I have in doing this.
that's amazing. So, what would you say to anyone thinking or already building an AI tool in the Web3 space? What would be your piece of advice or um, suggestion?
I would say good AI takes time.
Okay.
That's what I've learned.
Oh, that's powerful.
So if you're
And I think
building because
Jesse
of
will agree
purpose,
as well.
of course, Jesse has been there like for 7 years.
Yes.
Um, but if you're building because of a purpose, there's no need to run right now on the product and on getting a bunch of money and everything that involves saying right now that it's because of AI, because there's has to be a way of start adding value to customers and proving that it works, and take the time to build ethically the logics of the model behind it.
Yeah,
I don't know if I made
it
sense,
does.
but it's
Yeah.
it's pretty much something that yeah.
Yeah. Good things take time, sort of. Well, I want to say that I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of what you're building. I really can't wait to try Thrive. It's so nice to hear you talk about it, and it's definitely something that I can see myself using on a daily basis. So thank you so much for your opinions and for being here, helping anybody else who's, building something out in this space. Jesse, well, as we just mentioned, your expertise in AI and blockchain goes way back before it became a trend and it became a hype and it became this huge thing that's going on now. So I want to ask you, what made you believe back then that this day would come? Like how did you see it being adopted? What were your thoughts towards what the AI trend was gonna come to be?
So actually, I guess back then when I started doing AI, I didn't believe this day would come. I must say, I was a bit of a more pessimistic. I was very much surprised with ChatGPT when it came out, the day it came out. So there was like a big shock, I think, for a lot of people, especially back then. If you were in the academic space in AI, there's this in history actually. There's always this tendency of all these really smart people to be a bit pessimistic about like seeing all the limitations. So back then, a lot of people never thought AI would be able to deal with general language processing, which is basically what ChatGPT does, having
Yeah.
a normal conversation with a human and sort of understanding what's going on in a wider context, which was like a few years ago, people thought it was impossible because there is so much ambiguity happening in a conversation. Words have multiple meanings, and that's one thing that NLP, natural language processing in artificial intelligence, could never deal with. So for me, it was a surprise when ChatGPT came out, or like every AI breakthrough is often a surprise for a lot of people in the academic sphere. I think AI school and the academic space is a little bit pessimistic in many ways because
Okay.
there's always people that are really smart that are saying it's impossible things can be done.
Okay.
Like before Kasparov got beat by Deep Blue in a game of chess, people thought it would never be possible, but then it happened, and now it's like the most normal thing. Right now, a pocket like a mobile phone can win from a chess master,
Yeah.
right? And the same went for the game of Go. I actually play Go. It's sort of a game similar to chess that has simpler rules, but it's sort of more complex in the number of possibilities. A few years ago, no one thought a computer could beat a human at playing Go, but then Google made a really good computer playing Go, and it happened. And then just reality changes. So the same thing happened with ChatGPT and chatbots, and right now the application we see in, for example, in mental health and generative art and in mental health and in fashion, like there's all these topics that are first they were like experts would be the only like the general opinion would be only humans that are experts in the field can do this, right? And then suddenly there is an AI that can do it, and then everyone's opinion changes.
Yeah.
So for me, I didn't think this would come this quick. I did believe because history has so many examples of AI and innovation winning over what experts say is impossible, that I did believe it would happen at some point. But like the suddenness and like that it already happens now, and ChatGPT just being open for everyone to use, and like DALL-E and all these generative graphical networks being available for people to use through Discord, I think is amazing, and it created loads of possibilities
Yeah, that's
for
amazing.
people to make use of.
Yeah, I think it's really great because you had this vision. It's just like everything else, really. And like Daniela said, it's patience and purpose that what you're building or what you're working on, it's going like where it's going and what it's going to bring to humanity, even though you don't see it right away happening. And in your case, well, it was a long time, right, to be fully adopted. But I think that's one of the big values of Effect is that you guys are pioneers in this subject. Like you saw it way before it was here. Even when I joined the project, I remember it wasn't that much a big deal AI yet. So I'm just like really honored to be here at the time that it's flourishing, or I don't know if that's the right word, but it's blooming. That's what I
Yeah,
mean.
no, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And what Daniela just said, I think, is a really good example where it's a lot. You see a lot of people riding the hype wave. When AI gets popular, everyone starts doing it, which is a dangerous thing because like you should do something you think is important and is relevant, and do it and commit to it for like a longer time frame. And if the hype comes, then I mean that's good because there's more attention and more resources going to the specific area. But it's also bad in the sense that there's lots of people jumping in with all kinds of things, and it's important to focus on the good and believing in the good parts of that
Yeah,
technology. So
I think
yeah,
what's important about that, just if I can jump in
yeah,
and say, is that another, like this is in fashion, but I think in anything, it's about collaboration. And I think that that's
yeah,
something that maybe, I don't know if we think so much about collaboration around AI. I mean, we are actually collaborating in a very intimate way with a technological device when
yeah,
we're implementing AI, right? And so, well, the terrain is certainly, there's a hype channel that's around this ecosystem. There's a lot of fun and creativity to be had around that
Yeah.
collaboration journey. And I think that can hopefully help both to educate and empower people who are just kind of like blasting into AI because it's the new hot search term, or like hot buzzword to do in this space, to really see the value over time and like the potential
Yeah.
for all there is to be realized through that collaboration process. And I'm thinking about some examples within Valentino's. I think it's the Essentials menswear collection was shot entirely in AI.
Oh,
That's pretty
nice.
groundbreaking
Yeah.
for fashion. That's a big deal to have the collaborator be the photographer, which is AI. And so I think that that's a really a moment that's kind of evocative and shares that collaboration journey. And then also, I'm going to ruin his name, but Malik Afaguba, who was the Nigerian AI artist who created a fashion show for elderly people utilizing AI. So imagining what this could look like. And again, these are just like specific to fashion moments, but you're thinking of another tool in the toolbox for the creative designer to be able to collaborate with. And I think that has value across all of the modalities we're talking about, and certainly brings about this interplay between being poised and have education and having been in the trenches in this work, but also what we can bring to the AI space too for potential to collaborate as well. I think it's regenerative and has a lot of that interplay that's really fun about co-creating and co-building. I think that's exciting too.
Yeah, 100%. And that's really interesting that you bring that up because that's true. We're all collaborating. We're all just working together on this in a very intimate way because if you think about it, well, the root of artificial intelligence is human intelligence. So it's also, in a way, it's really human as well, even though we're turning it into but yeah, that's really insightful to hear. I have a community question for Daniela. I have
Bring it on.
Yes. How do you think AI and mental health apps, take for instance AI assistant and senior patients?
Take for instance what?
AI assistants and senior patients. So senior,
Like old
yes,
people?
older people.
Sorry.
Do you think the aging population can be helped to combat loneliness if they have an AI assistant that checks in on them?
No,
Okay.
not that much. And especially elderly, I feel that even like, maybe I'll say something too risky, but
That's okay. That's what we're here for.
younger generations,
Yeah.
and digital, like younger generations that look for digital tools, they tend to be more open for this kind of solutions and look for them. And specifically speaking, 46% of them actually spend money in well-being apps.
Okay.
And 95% rely on digital tools when it comes to their well-being, which means for them that might not be the end solution, but that might give a little bit of a, like how to say that, like a aid band for emotions.
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
Yeah.
For the elderly, what I'd say is that they are not used to this. It's not natural for them to feel okay with something digital. And so I wouldn't, I don't know, I do not have patients that like the people, the most senior people that I've dealt with, they are like 50 or 55, I think. So older than that, I do not have experience, but what my intuition would say is if it's not natural for them, do not expect that it works and more because their brains are way more wired
Yeah.
because of the amount of data that they have from the years of experience. So I wouldn't, I like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
understand what you
think for
mean.
them it's too
I
far.
think
But there's something very interesting of what you were saying
yeah.
before that I'd like for the people that are listening here to give their chance to. I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. There was a great documentary called I think it's Singularity, but you can go you can look in YouTube on AI inspired in neuroscience. And it's very, very interesting to understand how AI is inspired on how human brain works, and it brings a human component to it for us to understand it better from a product perspective if we're not technology.
Okay.
So it's very interesting. Yeah.
What was the name of the documentary?
If I'm not wrong, I'll YouTube it now. But if I'm not wrong, it's Singularity. But when I looked for it, I looked for AI inspired in
Oh,
neuroscience.
okay.
It's very, very recent. It's like an hour long. Very, very
That
good
sounds great.
resource.
I'm gonna look it up and share it here on Twitter after we're done with the Twitter Spaces. Thank you. And I think maybe this just comes from me. What about this same question, but like applied to a generation that has been around technology their whole lives, like us? What about us when we're 90, for example? And hope not, but if we're alone, living by ourselves or whatever, do you see AIs being around us, watching over us, kind of keeping us company? Or is that too sad?
There's an experiment. I don't know if that was that directed to someone specifically.
To you, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. There's this very interesting experiment that the team building with Sophia has another like side thing, um, or involved in something else around empathy and compassion.
Okay.
Empathy, no, but compassion. Um, and there's some, for example, there's some AI programs that they are using to, there's two good things that they are using for autism to teach these
Yeah.
kids to train how emotions look because they naturally it's more difficult for them to recognize them. So instead of going through people and making mistakes, they train with the system, with a facial recognition system, and it's like a robot. So I think that's very, very positive on like that helping.
Yeah.
I recently was in a panel around the future of AI, and there was this very great speaker. Her name is Clara or Claire, and she was talking about that there's already cases of people like falling in love with their
Oh,
AI
really?
company or with their robotic
Oh,
company,
wow.
and so I think that loneliness is a huge world problem. Um, I think that we're very vulnerable on, or there might be people very, very vulnerable on creating emotions, and there is something very important on the training of us on how to make others understand that all of this, as empathic as they may sound or interact, they're still machines, they're still
Yeah.
robots. And she double clicked on something very interesting, and is how with ChatGPT, there's a bunch of people talking about it like or like
Yeah.
placing already a
Yeah.
personality. Like he said to me, sometimes I write to it and I write please. Like I am a very kind person,
Yes.
but still it's like or thank you. I say thank you. Like
Yeah.
it's
Like you feel that you cannot help but because all our interactions so far have been human.
see
Yeah.
exactly. So I think there is a risk on it, definitely, if we're not constantly aware of that, or for example, how people react to Sophia, the robot, when they interact to it,
Yeah.
and she has sense of humor, and she has like she creates emotions. but still is a machine. So yeah, definitely there's like that gray line, especially for people that have certain specific conditions and vulnerabilities on them actually finding emotions with AI.
There's also so much pop culture around this, like the Ex Machina and
Yes.
Megan is another, like there's a lot
Yes, that's what I
Totally.
was gonna say.
that we can theorize, right? Yeah. So I mean, Daniela, you have a better depiction of the horizon of healing and wellness, but there's also a lot of like pop culture playing out this conversation and trying to understand what it looks like. There was a play I'm trying to find. I don't recall the name of it, but about a elderly woman who has dementia and has basically like a voice chat bot who's keeping her company. And this was maybe a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, right? So this is like what we're talking about in the cultural arts, in pop culture, on Netflix, what have you. So certainly there's a conversation around that groundswell of the fear of loneliness and companionship, and there's a lot of tools for children who are autistic that can be accompanied by I guess that's the Megan in one way, shape, or form pretense, but there are ways to certainly liken a virtual friend, into the future. And I think that that's both the cautionary tale as well as understanding. I think, Jesse, when you were talking about like how we build and the pace, both Daniela, you mentioned too, the speed at which we're building, to be very intentional and think about the what we're building for, not just simply in the now, but for the future. So I think it's a really important conversation to be had.
Yeah, totally agree. And actually what you say is also true. Like there's been people help to feel less lonely. Even with, for example, I don't know if you guys had that, but when I was a kid, there was this toy that was a little robot and its name was Kirby. And it was like a pet. Like there's a lot of my friends found company in the little Kirby thing. I
Was it
didn't
like
have
a
one.
little owl?
Bird, weird bird.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh
I
yes,
didn't have one because
I
I
did.
thought it was weird that it talked.
Yeah.
But what Sasha is saying is really important. It's true. In my like taking on the hat of psychology, just psychology, yes, it can make people feel less lonely. Taking on the hat of more empathic world, values, purpose, and trying to move farther on that, it brings a gray line of that is still a machine, of how to help these people
Right.
in a more warm way, but definitely that's why I say it's like an aid band. Like
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very interesting conversation,
There's
definitely.
even, I just remember there was also the Tamagotchi. I don't know if you had one. It was like you
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
take care of it.
That was yeah. Yeah. I don't know if that's Latin American there, but yeah, definitely.
But that's funny
Or
to
also,
think.
Sasha, there's this very interesting use case of deep fakes, for
Yeah.
example, um, for healing loss.
Okay.
So because of the strength of deep fakes and one of the huge things of loss,
Hmm.
um, people, for example, there's in Colombia, there's a bunch of people that just kind of disappeared, and doing the exercise of healing that without having a something to say goodbye to. Um,
Okay.
sorry. So deep fakes there are can be very very useful, though is not that person there. It can bring a scenario for the emotional relief. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that's
That's
powerful,
really
Danielle. I mean, going
powerful.
through the process of like healing and loss and being able to almost carry it out before we had like a theater,
Yeah.
to emulate, to go through, but now we can have it in our homes. So yeah, that's very powerful.
I have to go to another call right now,
Yeah, that's all right.
but
We're almost
thank you for
wrapping up.
giving so much space to these topics. I love them.
Thank you so much for being here, Danny.
Yeah, thanks, Daniela. That was great. I actually had a Furby myself. I remember it was like interesting for
Yeah.
like a little bit,
Yeah.
but yeah, I totally relate to
Yeah.
what you're saying.
We've had those always. Well, thank you, Danny. I'll move on to a community question for Sasha, actually. And that is, do you think AI and virtual fashion will be better accommodating to people of all body shapes?
Oh, that's a great question. I hope that it's not mutually exclusive. I hope that it doesn't have to be that AI is better than
Right.
what I think a lot of designers are trying to achieve now. But certainly with this level of personalization, supply chain planning, and just like the true retail, the business of the fashion cycle, supply chain management lens that I can put on, I think that there's the opportunity to understand the shopping patterns and behaviors and utilize data from those types of information tools that AI can potentially generate to have a wider range of options and spectrums that are compatible for the consumer who's going to a brand and maybe having less of like a one-off collection for plus size wear, but for potentially like having a whole collection, like a line,
Yeah.
in that styles. I think it's just a large question of resource management, and hopefully that can impact both the sizing and the compatibility with what the market segment need is. But then also you look at like tools like sustainability and traceability, and thinking about how to literally like cut the patterns in a more efficient way based on different knowledgeability in what the consumer again is demanding. So I think that there's great, again, I think of it as a symbiosis. So I don't think of it again as like a exclusionary, like the designer is just going to stop designing, certainly. But yeah, I think there's potential. I
Me
think that
too.
when data is always empowering, however, it's always in the eye of the beholder, right? And what you do with the data. So if steered in the right direction, and meaning like with knowledgeability and a spectrum of the whole audience that you're impacting, that can be really powerful. And then not if done poorly, and have a more myopic sense of how to mine the data. So it's really again about building something that has the opportunity to be analyzed with a variety of different lenses.
100%. And I can totally see how it can be so liberating for certain body types. For example, for me, it's really, really hard to find clothes, to find styles that will go with my height because I'm super short and everything is always too long for me. And like as you were talking, I was just imagining coming into a shop, having my trousers or my skirts or something tailored to, what I need, and just having it all like done in AI and this like really techie way, and it just like the experience of my height would be so different than what it is at the moment when I have to go shopping.
Yeah, I love that. And I think like personalization is key, and thinking about long ago and far away. I worked with different RFID technologies, and thinking about the like what is selling and what is being stocked. And I think that there's a lot of traceability and IP and protection, and these types of tools that like deep retail
Yeah.
terminologies, right? But they can be appropriated towards saying like, I just want a tailored pair of jeans that are in my style, size, wash, that could be searchable through the entire Web2 space,
Yeah.
and hopefully into the Web3 ecosystem too. So I think there's a lot of potential there.
And it's super connected. We were just saying about mental health on that scale. What just finish up, what would you say to anybody thinking or already building an AI tool in Web3, especially in fashion and luxury?
Yeah. So I just got a package. It's funny, like literally my doorbell just rang, and I just got a package, and that was like something that I could have never imagined. I think I ordered it last night. I could have never that I need for an event next week, right? And I could never have imagined that speed and immediacy. being able to access something like a dress, right? That quickly.
Yeah.
When I started in the space, certainly there was shipping, but it wasn't like this. And so, archaic example, but certainly the future is coming close to the present very quickly, and I think that's exciting. It's exhilarating. Fashion, the only constant in fashion is change, and so fashion is ready for that ecosystem. Luxury is certainly ready for that level of premium concierge service that that this potential has to offer. But I would just say continue to have fun, continue to be creatively focused, and continue to have a sense of we're not just building for the present, but we're building for the future. So therefore, there's a responsibility embedded into that, and I think that that's just really important in building anything, but certainly within this space, we're talking about resources, both human and ecological resources that we're potentially impacting. And I think that always has to be given, a moment of pause in developing anything that's being done.
That's amazing. That's great advice. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Jessie,
my pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, last but not least, I want to ask you, what would you say to anyone thinking of or already building an AI tool in a Web3 space? And a little bit in the technical side, what would be the first steps toward building it?
I think now AI and blockchain, but specifically AI, is more accessible than ever. Like there's so many resources out there to get started. There's tools like ChatGPT and APIs available where as a beginning programmer, you can make use of the most advanced AIs quite easily. So AI is no longer like it's I think it's expanding now. You don't need to start doing mathematics and programming and algorithm and start training necessarily, especially not when starting out. You can make use of what's available and get really creative by how to apply it. There's always a lot of data science involved in how you get data from A to B, how you get your data processed into an algorithm. It comes out and turning it into fashion or into a metaverse element, or applying it in regular Web2 tools is very useful. So that part, I think, like to get started is quite easy as a beginning developer. In Web3, I think it's very interesting right now because there's a lot of hype around Web3, and I think there is a lot of places where the Web3 the value is not as big as it appears to be. So it's important to just pay attention to things you really enjoy and you find interesting and that have real world applications, and focus on that. AI and Web3 are two technologies I think are a really good fit. I think I know that these are fundamentally just really fit well together because Web3 is building, basically, in my opinion, like everyone has a different definition of Web3, but Web3 is building a digital space, like a world in a digital world that is grounded in sort of a mathematical proof, where humans are not in charge, because you cannot just make things up and change history like we like to do over time. It's rooted in the blockchain, and there's no way people can change it, and it's a very powerful truth. It's a commodity that hasn't existed before, but because it's in the digital space, it's a commodity that anyone can make use of. For AIs, this will be it's where they connect to find out what people are doing, what's someone's identity, what's his history, what's his balances of accounts, what is my balance of account, what can you spend. I mean, it can be there can be privacy there as well, which is important, but like Web3 and AI fit very well together. So I think it's if you focus on the parts that are important and that are valuable for people to use, then you won't make a mistake doing that, I feel. So it's a very exciting, it's in technology the most exciting space that's currently happening, Web3 and AI. So
happy to be
look
here.
around. Yeah, right. Yeah, of course, we're all we're all doing it. So I think any of us can give good advice there. But yeah, just start participating in projects you like. Look at open source code if you're technical. I'm a fanatic about open source. I think it's really important to share like the things being built. Like blockchain has been sort of traditionally open source. Any blockchain that's being that's popular right now has this code base open source. So you can look around, you can participate, contribute. At Effect, we also have all our source code open source, so you can see everything being
Yeah.
built. And I think that invites a lot of people to contribute and to learn and to be part of it. And that is a really important part as well for newcomers to access, right? In traditional industries, if you're a new developer or you're just entering a space, it can be very intimidating or hard to get started because there's a lot of layers of authority and like you have to get better, improve yourself and get good relations to be part of it. But in AI and blockchain, you can actually just go into GitHub, go into Discord, talk with people, talk to the CEO, talk to the founders, make a pull request, create your own, like it's more accessible than ever, which gets me very excited. And I
Yeah.
think people should be encouraged to just make use of that and be creative and contribute.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think this is all a great picture that we're painting for anybody who's just getting started or thinking about getting started in this space, and that's what this Twitter Spaces was about, to like really give everybody an idea on how to get started, what the journey looks like. So thank you so much for being here, for everything you've shared with us. I've had so much fun. Quickly before we go, I just want to quickly remind everybody that Effect Network is a blockchain based platform that connects any project with a pool of human intelligence to complete tasks such as building data sets, validating and reviewing data, labeling images, or anything needed to build an AI tool. So basically, we provide a solution by matching you with the people that can successfully provide you this data labeling or anything you need to train your model. All right. Well, we have come to an end of this session, and I've enjoyed it so much. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to hear, to see how anything that's new with Blockchain Style Lab. This is Sasha's project. And yeah, of course, with Effect, I'm always excited with what's next. I want to thank everybody who was here listening to us. And if you're listening to the recording, yeah, feel free to go back and forth to listen to what all the guests had to say, all their suggestions and their recommendations. We're also going to do a couple of posts about it because I think it's very valuable content. Um, so yeah, thank you so much, Jesse, Sasha. Well, Daniela already left.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks, Sasha. It was great to chat, and thanks, Gabby, for hosting it. I enjoyed it, and thanks everyone here for listening in.
I enjoyed it a lot too. Well, thank you again, and have a good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye bye.